Paul Burns of the Sydney Morning Herald calls this film a superbly creepy thriller with universal themes, an essential movie in anyone's canon. James Berardinelli says it exhibits all the classic visual elements of 40s film noir. And Letterboxd user Marta Lovey says, psychological manipulation hose, where you at? On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of Gaslight.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters.
Ooh, is that your best Gregory Anton?
It is not my best. I'm so, no.
Well,
I've got
your Charles Boyer.
My Charles Boyer. No, I have a little bit of a cold, so it's the best. It's the best I've got at the
best
moment.
You can do. Well,
Yes.
that's okay. That's okay. Hey, Dan and listeners, it's
Hello.
Ruined Childhoods.
Hello,
We're going
John.
Back in time.
Yeah, gonna go back in time. I'm sorry because I'm just whenever I think of that song, I actually don't think of the movie Back to the Future. I think of the sketch on Saturday Night Live when Michael J. Fox hosted, and he was like on an elevator and people kept coming into the elevator and singing like Power of Love and like Back in Time. I don't know. It was, for some reason, it stands out in my head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Fair
anyway,
enough.
John, how goes it on your end of the line there?
It goes okay. I got a few things that I wanted to bring up on the podcast. I saw one of the news items is that Creed 3. Do you know that Michael B. Jordan is going to be directing Creed 3?
I did know that. Yeah, I saw that they announced the release date for it. I'm
Right,
excited.
yeah.
I'm excited.
Hey, we are Creed fans.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. That's exciting.
And Michael B. Jordan fans.
Absolutely.
Back from his days on Friday Night Lights and Parenthood and right through. Great movie, Chronicle.
I'm gonna even say far back as Hardball. Is that the movie with Keanu Reeves where he's
yes.
Michael B. Jordan is in that as a child.
He
was on The Wire, right?
That. Yes, I believe so. Yeah, so Michael B.
He's
Jordan
been killing it since he was a little kid.
But I mean, he's like, it's just great to see him get the recognition that he deserves and also and have these opportunities. And I'm glad that he's taking these opportunities. And I love that he's directing this franchise because the Creed franchise, it's part of the Rocky franchise, but like Sylvester Stallone kind of took the reins of the Rocky franchise after the first, I forget if the first one he directed was the third one.
I don't know.
I'll get back to you on that. But I have an appreciation that Michael B. Jordan is kind of following suit and is moving into the director's chair. Not quite under the mentorship of Stallone. I think it's more the mentor, if anyone. Oh, why am I blanking?
Ryan Coogler?
Yes, thank you, Ryan Coogler. Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, so, and Ryan Coogler's kind of like, I can't think of a bad Ryan Coogler movie.
No. Fruitvale Station is fantastic. Black Panther, of course, is absolutely tremendous. And he did did he do the first Creed or did he do both of the Creeds? I think
he did
just the first
right? one. He did the first one,
which is excellent. It's excellent.
It's great.
Yeah, and if we're gonna go and talk about movies that are standing the test of time and their legacies, Dan, have you watched Coming to America, the number 2?
Not yet. We're planning on hopefully watching it this weekend. That's one that is my wife and I are both fans of the original, so we are. That one is. I can't watch that without her. So
well, Dan, we'll talk about it more after you've seen it. But all I will say is that no matter how much you and your wife love Coming to America, nothing loves Coming to America more than its sequel, Coming to America.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression.
Oh boy, does it love itself. Oh boy. Well, so I mean, that's where I kind of am. Dan, do you have anything you want to talk about before we launch into Gaslight?
No, I really don't have. So other than Gaslight, I really haven't. This week's been busy. For those new to the podcast, first of all, welcome. Well, bienvenue, welcome and bienvenue, welcome, come on in. So I teach high school, 9th grade language arts. I've been remote now for a year. Woohoo! Yeah. And anyway, for those unfamiliar with the teaching profession, you get evaluations, you get, you have an administrator, an assistant principal usually, who comes in and observes you a couple of times a year, and you're kind of, you're assessed on your teaching and your connection with students and so on and so forth. And I had my second observation this past week, and I kind of like to bring my A game all the time, but you want to bring your A plus game when the AP is coming in.
You want to do extra credit.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah. And especially like I have an administrator this year, my evaluator, who, he's really like, he's got standards, and he's someone who likes details and, likes preparation and structure and things like that. Some things which are very challenging for me. So I was really focused on having my lesson prepared. He was, observing me first thing on Thursday, which, it's kind of like they have an open door invitation to any of my classes, but for a class that's first thing in the morning, the discussions tend to be pretty lively in that class.
Okay.
Actually, they tend to be lively in all my classes. We had for example, we had a lively discussion today about, I had a warm-up question that was, what is your, and this is, part of this lesson that I was planning. It was to provoke this discussion because it's rich. And the prompt was describe a time when you tried to convince someone of something or change their opinion. How did you succeed? Why not? And how did you try to convince them? So we got into, and I told them ahead of time, I was like, we may get off into some tangents, and that's okay. Yeah. And we sure did, because someone posted something about Rory on Gilmore Girls, and the character, we're not talking about Alexis Bledel, the actress who played Rory, but talking about the character, and this student was complaining that the character kept getting into the same situations, never learned anything, and it was like every day they were just like a robot that you reboot every morning. And it was so funny because I mean, I'll be honest, I have not seen an episode of the Gilmore Girls, despite my appreciation for Lauren Graham, the late, great Edward Herman, pour one out. Yeah. And there's a lot of great people, Melissa McCarthy. So, but I've never watched it. And there were all of a sudden, I have another teacher in that class who works with some of the students, and she was like, yes, finally someone is saying this. And then another girl who hardly ever will like unmute herself and chime in, usually because I know for a fact she takes care of 3 younger siblings, so it's often pretty noisy there. So I understand, but was like, wait a second, I gotta get it. Like the digital hand went up and
oh wow,
was like, I gotta get in here. So I was like, this is fantastic. I've had conversations about the most random things, condiments. The other day there was a discussion about ranch dressing, and people were like into it. And
wow.
So anyway, point of the story is it's been a really busy week, and I have managed to watch the 1944 Gaslight as well as most of the 1940 Gaslight, and I managed to squeeze those in. I've really gotten used to watching things on my phone, especially as I'm getting ready for the podcast on a busy week. And I'm like, I'm not going to have time to like lounge out in my chair and sit and watch this in one sitting. And so I'll be watching it as I'm, making lunch or something between classes. Or,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you know, for me, most of this week, aside from I watched, the 1944 Gaslight. I watched chunks of the 1940 Gaslight, but talking about watching things on your phone, I've been watching a lot of TikTok videos of kids after they just got their wisdom teeth out. It's maybe my favorite genre of short film, and it's mostly it's these kids who are just coming off of whatever drug they were on to knock them out for getting their wisdom teeth out. And, it's pretty much them in the cars with their parents swearing in front of their parents for the first time and not realizing it right away and feeling the horror of, like, oh no, what did I just say? And the parents just be like, it's okay. It's okay. It's amazing.
I have a great story about that, but it reminds me of what was that video from, several years ago now. Was it
David After Dentist?
David After Dentist, thank you.
Classic. Is this real life?
This sounds like kind of a, subgenre of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's what I've been into lately. But yeah, so let's talk about Gaslight.
I have a funny story because my daughter my daughter Chloe, who, she's a few weeks away from being 7.
That's right.
And occasionally it's so funny now I think I am more of the cusser between my wife and I, but my wife is the one who will cuss more around Chloe. And she does not do it frequently. Elise, my wife, dropped an F-bomb at the dinner table, and Chloe had that moment where she had that look on her face and she was like, did you say fucking? And it was like, yep, and now you did too, and you get away with that one.
Yeah, well, you're not hearing a lot of that going on in Gaslight because this was post-Hays Code, so you're not going to hear a lot of that in the Gaslight movies, both 40 and 44.
Though in the 1941, there's this weird sex joke during one of the scenes. We'll talk after the synopsis, but weird, or at least that's how I took it.
Right. So we're focusing on the 1944 Gaslight, which is the more famous of the two, even though, it originated as a stage play in the late 30s and then was pretty quickly adapted to a film in 1940 and then was essentially just like, I think that we could do this better. And then it was remade just a few years later, which is kind of amazing. And as lore goes, part of the deal was that they would destroy the remaining prints of the 1940 version, which did not end up happening. It is available on Prime Video for anybody who wants to check out the 1940 version. I watched the 1944 version on Hoopla, which you can check out if you have a library card, a library that participates with the streaming service Hoopla. I think most do. And it was interesting watching the two because it was like, oh, this one in 44, clearly had a bigger budget. There was definitely, they really, I don't know, zhuzhed things up a bit. It won the Oscar for, stage for stage decoration or something like that.
Oh, well, yeah. But no, your assessment of that, I think we could do this better, is pretty spot on. Yeah. And zhuzhing just everything up from, and I mean, in all due respect to Diana Wynyard, who plays, well, I think it's Lola in the 1941 Paula. Ingrid Bergman plays her and is just wow.
Oh, absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And Charles, and they beef up the plot and they beef up the character development and
totally. They just kind of take it and they really just bulk it up and they really turn it into something juicy. And it's not to say that the 1940 version is bad. It's just like they saw an opportunity where they kind of missed the mark and they just went back and did it again, which is so fascinating. And it kind of just goes with, what we talk about on this show, which is focusing on, remakes and reboots and prequels and sequels. And it's like they've been happening since the beginning of cinema.
The Great Train Robbery.
The very first movie was remade like 5 times in the next couple of years. So
before I guess I guess we should talk about the summary first, and then about how this term entered the lexicon, if you will.
Sorry. Yeah. This month we're focusing on movies that have a title that has entered modern lexicon and kind of, or redefined it in the way of the Full Monty. It redefined it from just being everything to being in the nude. And, we talked about the bucket list, which didn't exist as a term before the movie The Bucket List, which when I tell people still, they're just like, no, that's not possible, right?
Yeah, I know. It's so funny.
Yeah. And so Gaslight, the definition is, the manipulation of somebody into convincing them that they, I don't know, remember something incorrectly or didn't say something that they said, like convincing them that they're the crazy one, essentially.
You'll be hearing examples of this throughout the episode.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'll just do a little synopsis and then we'll get moving with that, okay?
And then I've got a little bit more background on how Gaslight kind of took on its more contemporarily common political use.
Sure. Ooh, juicy.
So anyway, it's attributed, and I'm getting this from a New York Times article, Why Gaslight Hasn't Lost Its Glow, published in 2019. It's Jay Hoberman, a New York Times critic. And he mentions that it may have been Maureen Dowd, a political columnist who may have been the first to apply gaslight to politics in a 1995 piece titled The Gaslight Strategy, which was describing how the Clinton administration was attempting to provoke the Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, into making irrational outbursts. So,
oh, right. I did read about that. Yes. Yeah. And it's something that also, I think that the term itself came into popularity in the 60s. I don't have specific examples in front of me, but I read somewhere that in the 60s, that's where it started to really come up and be used more commonly as a term to describe this, I don't know, phenomenon, not really phenomenon, but this manipulation that occurs, the specific type of manipulation.
Yeah. Oh, Jinx. Yeah. Specific type. I was going to say psychological manipulation, but yes.
Yeah. So let me just do the little synopsis and we'll get into all of it.
Yes.
After finding her beloved celebrity aunt Anne Alquist mysteriously murdered in their home, 9-year-old orphan Paula is moved away to be raised by her deceased aunt's dear friend and singing coach, Maestro Garrity. About a decade later, Paula and Maestro Garrity's pianist, Gregory Anton, have fallen in love and decide to get married. Despite having had nightmares about her childhood home, Paula knows that Gregory's dream is to live in a house on a London square, so they return to her childhood home, which was left to her in her aunt's will. As they begin their new lives together, Gregory slowly and systematically convinces Paula that she is forgetful and absent-minded. He manages to do this with the unknowing help of their home staff, a hard-of-hearing chef, and young housemaid who has the hots for Gregory and the nots for Paula. The one person in London to gain an interest in the goings-on of number 9 Thornton Square is Brian Cameron, an inspector who is a childhood fan of Paula's aunt, Anne Alquist. Demanding that the closed case is reopened, Cameron enlists the help of a beat officer to woo Nancy, the housemaid, and get information from her. Meanwhile, Cameron figures out that late at night, Gregory enters his closed-off attic through the vacant house next door in order to rummage for missing jewels that were never found after Alice's murder. When he confronts Paula, who is now completely convinced that she has gone mad, they find a letter written to her Aunt Alice from Sturgis Bauer, a pianist who played with Alice in Prague, 2 days before her murder. This letter had been previously found by Paula, but Gregory hid it from her and then convinced her that it never existed in the first place. Cameron reveals that the handwriting is the same as Gregory's, indicating that Gregory Anton and Sturgis Bauer are one and the same, and that he murdered Alice for her jewels, but never found them because young Paula interrupted the theft, so this is his plot to finally recover them for himself. So, Gregory Anton is played by Charles Boyer. Paula is Ingrid Bergman, who is just phenomenal. Cameron is played by Joseph Cotton, who's just absolutely fantastic. Dame May Whitty is Miss Bessie Thwaites, who's the kind of like nosy neighbor who Paula meets on a train at first. She's a hoot. The very first film appearance of Angela Lansbury as Nancy the housemaid, and then there's Barbara Everest as Elizabeth, who's the house chef, I believe is what she is. So, man, it's okay. Charles Boyer he's great. I mean, he's a little over the top, but it's 1944, so it just works.
Well, and to your point, you know, at a certain point watching this, I was like, man, like I really love this, but it's so cliche. And then I was like, well, when this came out, because I'm like,
cliche.
Because I'm like, when I'm thinking of these cliches, I'm thinking of like a hand that rocks the cradle, and what was it, like Sleeping with the Enemy?
Sleeping with the Enemy, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was like, oh, so really this is a, you know, early 90s.
This is the prototype.
Thriller. Yeah. This is the blueprint right here. So,
totally.
When you look at it from that perspective and you're like, oh, I mean, yes, it was a play. Yes, it was another movie. And yes, by 1944, audiences were familiar with melodrama. The kind of psychological torture that she goes through, and the fact that the whole time, you know, he's up to something. I mean, like I one of my first notes is, oh fuck, he did it.
Yeah. Well, I think that I hadn't quite caught on when she was still, you know, before they came to like London and everything. But once he starts talking about wanting to move to like a house on a square in London, it's kind of like, oh, all right. Okay. And, you know, I didn't do any reading about it before I watched it because I wanted to go in completely clean. All I knew is that the term gaslight comes from this movie and that this is some sort of psychological thriller. That's all I knew. And I mean, let's face it, odds are it's, you know, going to be the husband that's, you know, playing games here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just kind of like put it together that he was the pianist who worked with her aunt's vocal coach, trainer. Yeah. And, you know, I was just kind of like, but it's funny how like he was like, I don't know how old she was when she, you know, interrupted the theft.
I think it said that she was 9.
So, and it was that like that he like formed that plan, like that was his go-to.
I imagine he didn't come up with the plan right away, like that night. I imagine that, you know, it was just kind of like all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find out what happened to this kid.
I'm going to marry that 9-year-old. I'm going to find that 9-year-old.
Yeah. So, Anyway,
he's pretty creepy, but like
he's creepy.
Yeah.
Ingrid Bergman.
No, it makes
plays
sense.
it so. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she plays it so like you really believe her. Like this is one of those early acting performances where it's just like, oh yeah, this is somebody who clearly has it dialed in before most other people are really doing like solid film acting.
Yeah, like this is a few years before, like On the Waterfront, like this is before, Brando and the like. But yeah, she's really, and she plays this wonderful, like they really do, the script does a great job of setting up that like all these people are telling her like, oh, forget about the past, live for the future. You know that she's had like, experienced this trauma and
right. Well, like the very first thing. Yeah, one of the very first things that's said to her is, the person who's taking her away from the house is saying like, no, don't look back. Just look ahead to the future. Like, let's get that out of your memory and just start fresh. And it's kind of like, ugh. And her whole, everything that we see of her is people trying to tell her who she is and what she should be. They tell her like, you're going to go live with the maestro, or going to be raised by like this maestro. Your aunt was such a great singer and you look just like her. So certainly you'll be a singer. But when she's with the maestro, he's telling her like, oh, no, you can't sing, which I don't understand because you look just like your aunt. Like, it's kind of weird. It's like everybody's telling her, who she should be. And it seems like that's the moment where she's like, well, you know what? I'm just going to try to figure things out on my own. And that's when, Gregory really implants himself into her life and they decide to get married.
Yeah, but I mean, she's already with him because
she's already with him, but he's like, I can't let her change her mind. I can't let her, form her own thoughts, essentially. She's supposed to be going on this trip by herself, and then he's at the train station there when she gets there.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot about the train station. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And which is where she meets the, it's like the prototype for the Edie McClurg character. That's, I'm not suggesting Edie McClurg in a remake, but that's the spirit of an Edie McClurg character.
Yeah. Now let's listen to a little bit of that because I feel like it'll also help us get into the mode of this film. Hey there. Due to YouTube copyright restrictions, this clip is not available in the YouTube version of this podcast episode. Feel free to listen to it on a podcast app, or there will be a link to a clip to this video in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Thanks for understanding. So what I love about that interaction is that's one that wasn't in the 1940 version, which means it probably wasn't in the play, but it's such a well-written scene because it gives you so much information through this woman, everything that she's saying. It makes sense why she's bringing up this murder because it establishes that she has a fascination with the gruesome in her book. Like she's just such a curious, Rosie the nosy neighbor. And I don't know, like their interaction just seems so perfect. And it just really worked for me. I think that scene is what really like drew me into the movie.
Yeah, the character, it's interesting because I wouldn't go as far as to say she's comic relief, but she's kind of that constant
she is.
presence. She's kind of comic relief, but she's that constant reminder of how, nobody in these neighborhoods can keep a secret forever.
Yeah.
There's always someone like that who's snooping around. And I love the way that forgive me, I'm forgetting the character's name, so I'm just gonna say the actor Joseph Cotton.
The
Brian
way that Cameron.
Brian, right. The way that he uses her to get into the house.
Yep.
Yeah, she's a really interesting character. I love how she in the climax when all the everything is getting revealed, and there's the fight between Joseph Cotton and Charles Boyer, and she like comes in. There's just like a cutaway to her like coming and knocking on the door, like, anybody home?
Yeah. It's great. I love it. I think that she's awesome. Shout out Dame May Whitty. It's such a fascinating film. I think that everything with the Brian Cameron character really makes a lot of sense. I like the interaction that he has with his like superior, at Scotland Yard, who's telling him like, don't even bother, that case is closed, don't go poking your nose where it doesn't belong. And there's this whole thing where when Paula and Gregory first go to the house, she shows him like, this glass that got broken and like all these things that her aunt collected and this one glove that she had, and that she had from her performances. And she's like, but I don't know what happened to the other one. And you find out later that, Brian was a huge fan of hers when he was a kid and met her once, and he had the other glove. And it's just like a really nice connection. And what really makes it zhuzhed up that you're not really getting from the 1940 version. Because when I was watching the 1940 version, I was looking out for things where it's like, okay, they didn't do that, they didn't do that, they didn't do that. And it became obvious why they wanted to make a remake so quickly after.
Yeah, although they did have the murder of Alice Alquist in the 1940 version, which is weird. There's that strange sex joke because like this guy's walking, I forget if it's the constable or like just some random guy like walking past the house while Alice is being strangled, and you just hear her going like, oh, and the guy gets this like smile and wink on her face like, oh, somebody's getting lucky. And it was like, that's
somebody's getting unlucky.
Yes, seriously. Wow. The 1941 is kind of like a dress rehearsal for the 44 one.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just talking more about the 1944 one, the manipulation kind of starts off pretty quickly. They're not even in the house for more than a few days when he introduces this brooch that he's giving her that, like, I think he's saying was his mother's or something like that. And he makes this big show about giving it to her, but how he needs to get it mended. So he puts it into her purse. And at some point he takes it out without her seeing so that she thinks that she lost it. And, he just kind of sets up this whole idea about her being forgetful. I'll play a little clip of that.
Yeah.
I have a present for you, Paula.
Oh, Gregory. Oh, where did you find anything so beautiful?
It belonged to my mother, and before that to her mother, and now it belongs to you.
Oh, I shall wear it always. Always, oh my dear. Oh, how sweet of you to give me this. Oh,
I'm afraid the pin is not very strong.
No.
I'll have it mended.
Yes.
You better not wear it until I have. You might lose it. You are inclined to lose things, Paula.
I am? No, I didn't realize that.
Oh, just little things. I'll put it in your bag for safekeeping. There. Now, you'll remember where it is.
Oh, don't be silly. Of course I'll remember.
Oh, I was teasing you, my dear.
Oh, man, you just hear him say that, and you're just like, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
How dare you?
What
a slime.
And he's just being so subtle. Oh, just little things.
Well, he pulls it off as if he's being charming and kind. And that's how this happens. This really happens this way. And it just, oh, man, it just makes your blood boil when you hear it in this movie.
Yeah, it really, and the way he plays it, and I know that like the performance is a bit hammy from Charles Boyer, but it's so good, and it fits the mood of this film, which is very much, the mood is Gaslight. The mood is
So we didn't talk yet about why it's called Gaslight and how that term enters into this film. So, you know, this takes place in the era before homes are lit with electric light bulbs. You know, they are all gas lit. And, you know, at the very beginning, it reminded me of Mary Poppins Returns, which, you know, instead of chimney sweeps, it's the guys who light the gas lamps outside of all the homes. And Lin-Manuel Miranda is the main guy who does that. And there's somebody who does it at the beginning of this. I'm just like, oh, it takes place in the Mary Poppins verse, maybe just a couple blocks away. So a couple squares away. So meanwhile, yeah, something very different's happening. So the houses have, you know, a certain amount of gas that goes through the pipes. And when one additional one is lit, another one kind of dims a little. So he is going into their own attic, which he has closed off from the rest of the house. So he's sneaking into the attic to try to find these jewels. And because he's turning on the lamp up there, it's dimming the lamps here. And when the lights dim, it is meant to signify when she feels like she's going crazy. And there's like a scene where she's with Angela Lansbury, and she notices the light dim a little bit, and she's just like, "Did you turn on another light? Because this is dim." And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And yeah, the manipulation just goes very, very deep, and it's, you know, largely connected with these, you know, gaslights.
Yeah, it's and it sets the mood and this mysterious tone, and like, you know, he's up to something. You know, he's going up into the attic. You don't quite know, like exactly how or why. You know, I think they play up some possibilities, like almost like he's like some Jack the Ripper who's going out at night, and like, well, when he comes back, he looks like he hasn't been up to any good. And
yeah, because like his tie is off kilter and he's a little dusty.
yeah.
That's how you know something is amiss in old-timey London.
Yeah, seriously. If I was I would never go home with my tie askew or dusty in the least.
The mere thought of it just sends shivers down my spine.
Oh, yeah. So, coming back to Gregory and how scummy he is, and Nancy, and how he kind of gets Nancy involved. Yeah, she's pretty you know, open. She's pretty persuadable. She's pretty open to suggestion.
Yes, and as you know, anybody today, you know, when they think about Angela Lansbury, all they think about is, you know, young minx just on the prowl.
Oh, that's what when you know, when you think Victorian era hoe, you think Angela Lansbury. So
no, she's great. Yeah, I'll play a little interaction that she has with Gregory.
Oh, great.
Seems to be getting worse, doesn't she, sir?
You will please not refer to your mistress as she. Thank you, Nancy.
Going to work on your tunes again tonight, sir? You're always working, aren't you?
Yes. What are you doing with your evening out?
Oh, I'm going to a musical. Up in a balloon, boys, up in a
I've never been to an English music hall.
Oh, you don't know what you've missed, sir. Up in a balloon, boys, up in a balloon. You like it a lot, sir.
Well, we must see about that. And whom are you going to the musical with?
Gentleman friend, sir?
Oh, now you know, Nancy, don't you? That gentlemen friends are sometimes inclined to take liberties with young ladies.
Oh, no, sir. Not with me. I can take care of myself. When I want to.
You know, Nancy, it strikes me that you're not at all the kind of girl that your mistress should have for a housemaid.
No, sir. She's not the only one in the house, is she?
Oof. Laying it on thick.
Yeah. Wow. And then there's that whole thing about how they're going to send Paula away to, you know, a home, and
right.
Nancy's going to stay on to take care of him.
Yeah. Well, and also another difference between the 1940 version and the 1944 is that in that scene in the 40 version, they actually kiss. whereas in this one they do not. Which is an interesting choice.
Yeah. Well, there's like the tension there, and I think in the 1940 version, they're being less coy about him, in Gregory in the 44 version.
Yeah,
they're being even more overt about his being villainous.
Right, and for him, the whole thing is eyes on the prize, because the whole reason why he's there isn't just to like be, I don't know, a bad guy in every single way. His goal is to get these jewels, and he's going to do it however he has to. And if he starts, making out with Nancy all the time, then that's going to be a distraction from his goal. So,
true. Yeah.
I don't know if that's the reason why they decided not to make that kiss happen in this one, but that's my theory.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and when we haven't been playing a lot of clips showing the development of Paula, Ingrid Bergman's character. So I just want to show a little bit of that. So let's see. Here's another one. Here's the follow-up for the missing brooch.
Oh, Paula, you might give me your brooch so I can have it repaired. What's the matter? Anything wrong?
No. It's... Oh, Gregory, I can't find it.
What?
I missed it when we were in the tower. I must turn everything out. I know it was here. I can't understand it. I couldn't have lost it. It must be here.
I'm sure it's there.
It's not.
Oh, Paula, didn't I tell you? How did you come to lose it?
I must have pulled it out with something, I suppose. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, Gregory. Please forgive me.
Oh, forgive, my dear. It's not as serious as that. It's not valuable.
But your present to me, your mother's brooch, and I wanted to wear it always. I don't remember opening my bag. Well, I suppose I must have... You did put it in there.
Don't you even remember that?
Yes. Yes, of course I do. Well, suddenly I'm beginning not to trust my memory at all.
Paula, I tell you, you're just tired, that's all. It doesn't mean anything. I'm sure it doesn't. Don't worry so, Paula. Don't worry.
That's slime.
Oh man, yeah, he's so and this is when he knows like he's got her, because she's admittedly not trusting her own memory, and it's like, yes, it's wonderful.
She's like, you're right, maybe I am just tired, maybe that's what's going on. And we should absolutely mention, Ingrid Bergman won the best actress Oscar for this movie. She also won the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama, and Best Acting at the National Board of Review Awards. Gaslight itself, certainly it was inducted into the National Film Preservation Board. And also, like we said before, it won Best Art Direction Black and White at the Academy Awards that year. But it was also nominated for Best Motion Picture at the Oscars. Charles Boyer was nominated for Best Actor. Angela Lansbury was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Not bad for your first time out the gate.
Really?
Yeah, Best Screenplay, it was nominated. It was nominated for Best Cinematography, Black and White. It was nominated for the Cannes Grand Prize. So it certainly made its mark. And, I'm surprised that the movie itself isn't talked about, it's not put up there when people are talking about, the more famous like Hitchcock movies. This is certainly one that I think stands up amongst those as some of the great thrillers of early cinema.
Well, and it's, it comes after Rebecca, Suspicion, Shadow of a Doubt. So it's kind of, and it comes like right before Notorious. So it's definitely in that kind of like early noir, psychological mystery.
Yeah.
Genre.
Yeah. And, because we're talking this month about movies that coined popular phrases or phrases that have entered the modern lexicon, or, I feel like an honorable mention should go to movies that have coined it's a blank situation. And I feel like Rear Window is one of those. It's like, I got a real Rear Window situation going on over here, if you're snooping on your neighbors or whatever. Or Mr. Mom, or like, Benjamin Button disease. That's become one that people like to reference a lot.
You got a
single
Button
white
thing
female.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that have entered that, where I think that, if gaslight hadn't become just the like word to describe the psychological manipulation, then it certainly could have ended up being like, it's a real gaslight situation. But I think that that's because this movie isn't talked about as much as, a lot of those like Hitchcock movies. And it's kind of just the word itself, the title itself has kind of become the thing that people say without attaching it to the film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the play, if people want to do that.
Yeah, no, although I think the play was called Angel Street. So,
was it?
Yeah. And so, the term gaslight, kind of similar to the bucket list, but, Gaslight was this, big, award-winning / nominated movie, unlike Bucket List. No offense, Rob Reiner. But, sorry, Bucket List should have been written by Lowell Gans and Babaloo Mandel. And
like most things.
Yeah, of course. Like my life.
Go to our store on tpublic.com to get your very own written by Babaloo Gans and or Lowell Gans and Babaloo Mandel shirt.
Yes,
as seen in the City Slickers opening credits.
Or tote bag.
Or tote bag or sticker, whatever you want.
Yeah, so, and then I don't know if you have this clip to play, but Joseph Cotton, at a certain point, actually, like, finally gives an explanation. He doesn't call it gaslighting. He's like, well, gaslighting is when, but he describes, he really, like, explains the manipulation.
And I think that happens after she finds the letter that was written by Sturgis Bower. So I'll just go ahead and play that real quick.
Yeah.
I was right. There was a letter. And it was from Sturgis Bower.
What was that name you just said?
Sturgis Bower. I found this. But my husband said I dreamed, and now it's here.
Bower.
It's been here the whole time.
Bower. There was a Sturgis Bower connected with Alice Alquist. He was a young pianist who played for her in Prague. Let me see that. Dear Miss Alquist, I beg of you to see me just once more. I followed you to London. Look.
Dear Lady Dalroy. Oh, this is my husband's writing.
So is this. Mrs. Anton, your husband, Sturgis Bower, one and the same person. And this letter from Sturgis Bower to Alice Alquist was written 2 days before her murder.
But he said there wasn't any letter. He said I was going out of my mind.
Not going out of your mind. You're slowly and systematically being driven out of your mind.
Why? Why?
Perhaps because you found this letter know too much. Or because then he would have control of your property, of this house, and could search in the open instead of the dark, like this.
A search? What is that a search for?
For the things for which Alice Alquist was murdered. Her jewels.
I have her jewels?
For the jewels you didn't know she had. Famous jewels. Jewels for which he was searching that night, when he was frightened away by hearing someone come down the stairs. Someone he never saw. a little girl.
That he was here that night, but he never knew her. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're making a mistake. I know him. He's my husband. I've lived in the same house with him. You're talking about the man I'm married to.
Mrs. Anton, there's not a detail of the Alquist case that I don't know, and unless I'm more mistaken than I've ever been in my life, the man called Sergius Bauer has a wife living in Prague now. So you see, Mrs. Anton, he must have planned the whole thing step by step from that night.
Oh, if that were true, then from the beginning there would have been nothing.
Oh, this is her winning that Oscar. Like that scene and the couple scenes that follow, that's her sealing the deal for that Oscar.
Oh, well, the scene that she has with Gregory towards the end is, I mean, that's the scene. That's like,
all right, we're going a little clip crazy, but we're going clip crazy, but here we go. Oh, and just to set this up, he has been caught and he is tied to a chair and has requested a one-on-one with Paula, and Cameron has allowed it, which is very surprising considering this guy is certainly caught. But yeah, here, let's listen to that clip.
If I ever meant anything to you, and I believe I did, then help me, Paula. Give me another chance. Look, in the drawer of that cupboard over there is a knife. Get it and cut me free. Be quick, Paula. Get me the knife, cut me free. Will you get it, Paula? Will you get it for me?
Yes, I'll get it. I'll get it for you.
Hurry, Paula.
There's no knife here.
Yes, I put it there. Look,
I don't see any knife.
I put it there tonight.
No, it isn't here. You must have dreamed you put it there. Are you suggesting that this is a knife I hold in my hand? Have you gone mad, my husband? Or is it I who am mad? Yes, of course, that's it. I am mad. I'm always losing things and hiding things, and I can never find them. I don't know where I put them. That was a knife, wasn't it? And I have lost it. I must look for it, mustn't I? If I don't find it, you'll put me in the madhouse. Where could it be now? Perhaps it's behind this picture. Yes, it must be here. No. No, where shall I look now? Perhaps I put it over here. Yes, I must have done that. My brooch. The brooch I lost at the tower. I found it at last, you see, but it doesn't help you, does it? And I'm trying to help you, aren't I? Trying to help you to escape. How can a mad woman help her husband to escape?
But you're not mad.
Yes, I am mad, as my mother was mad.
No, Paula. That wasn't true. Help me.
If I were not mad, I could have helped you. Whatever you had done, I could have pitied and protected you. But because I am mad, I hate you. Because I am mad, I have betrayed you. And because I am mad, I'm rejoicing in my heart without a shred of pity, without a shred of regret. Watching you go with glory in my heart.
And the Oscar goes to...
Acting! Brilliant!
Oh, she's so good. Oh, yes. She's so good. Yes. Oh, man. Well deserved for that little statue. Yeah, she's just tremendous. I can't speak any more highly of a performance than that. That's as good as it gets.
And it feels like...
starring Jack Nicholson. And the Oscar goes to...
nominated against the Full Monty, in fact. So, so of course, Isabella Rossellini, Ingrid Bergman's daughter, and you can so clearly see the resemblance, and that scene, it just makes me think of her in Blue Velvet, towards the end especially, and
Blue Velvet's crazy. We got to do that one sometime.
Oh yeah, seriously, man. But and Isabella Rossellini in her own right is, she's just an incredible actress who I feel like knows no bounds. And, but, you know, watching her mother, it's like, oh, well, yeah, clearly. Okay.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I guess.
No, it does not. No, she, but man, like she just, that scene, you're just like, you know, I could be watching this on my phone in my kitchen doing dishes and I'm like, yeah, you tell him, you tell that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, it's awesome.
Yes.
It's awesome. You know, there have certainly been plenty of other movies in which gaslighting is a factor. I think that one that comes up a lot is, well, also the book, but the girl on the train. That one is, you know, this woman is an alcoholic, and so people kind of use that as kind of like oh, you don't remember what you did, oh, you must have blacked out, and you know, and it was all of this manipulation that was going on. And one that certainly plays a lot in my home, considering I have a 3-year-old, is the movie Tangled. Dan, have you seen Tangled? The Rapunzel.
I have not, no.
Okay, first of all, it's great. It's really fantastic, but the whole thing is that she was taken by this woman who uses the magic in her hair to stay young, and she's like thousands of years old. And this woman who goes by Mother Gothel convinces her that she can't leave the tower because she won't survive out there, and she's too weak, and it's scary, and people are going to be coming after her, and you know, she completely gaslights her. And it's kind of amazing that this is a huge plot device in a children's movie. And it's a good way to teach kids, you know, look out for people like this, because they can take advantage of you, and they can really trick you into thinking that, you know, you've got something wrong with you, and they're just bad people.
Well, look at the Truman. You made me think of the Truman Show.
The Truman Show. Mm-hmm.
Like that, it takes it to a new level. Yeah, in the Truman Show.
I was actually thinking of watching that last night, and I didn't end up watching it. I should have watched that one.
It's kind of always on the short list for me, but I'm like, you know, I'm like, I want to dig into that. So, you know, definitely sometime soon, get back to the Truman Show. But yeah, you know, actually I was looking at Psychology Today. Easy for me to say.
It's late. It's Friday night.
Yeah, it's been a week. And so the 11 warning signs of gaslighting. This is important, and we should know this. So when someone is gaslighting you, they are telling blatant lies. You know they are lies, but these people are setting a blatant lie, and they're going to just kind of put you in doubt. And then they deny, number 2, they deny they ever said something, even though you have proof.
Yeah.
So you heard it, you remember it, but no, I never said that. Number 3, they use what is near and dear to you as ammunition. Number 4, they wear you down over time. It's done gradually. A lie here, a lie there, a snide comment every so often.
Yeah.
And then it ramps up. So, number 5, their actions do not match their words. So look at a person's actions rather than what they're saying. What they're saying means nothing. Number 6, they throw in positive reinforcement to confuse you. Number 7, they know that confusion weakens people. Number 8, they project. They will accuse you of things they themselves are guilty for. Number 9, they try to align people against you. Number 10, so in the case of the movie Gaslight, you know, Elizabeth, definitely Nancy.
Right.
Yeah. They tell you or others that you are crazy. Hello.
Yeah.
Am I mad?
Yeah.
And number 11, they tell you everyone else is a liar.
Oh, I also read somewhere that people use humor to kind of bring your guard down a little bit. So I can see how he would be doing that a little bit in some of their interactions in this movie too.
He's hilarious.
Well, I mean, just like being light and playful.
Paula.
Yeah.
But Paula,
so,
why should we go out?
So Dan, I don't know. What do you see for, bringing this movie into the now?
Ideally, I would want to go back to 1993 and remake it and have like Antonio Banderas as Gregory.
Yeah.
But short of being able to do that, there's something about a remake of this that is actually really appealing to me. Like a straight up remake. And I was thinking about like, well, do you modernize it? Do you adapt it? And I feel like the atmosphere of that like Victorian era England is so...
Plus you can't, I mean, you don't have gaslights any later, so
I mean, unless it's like a meta, unless you're doing like a kind of loose remake where it's like the story is the same, but you just don't have the actual idea of the gaslight. But I like that as a device, and
it's really elegant.
And I feel like there are a lot of filmmakers that I would love to see take that on. I would love to see a female perspective on it. I'd love to see Cassie Lemons, who we talked about recently.
Yeah.
Because I was watching Eve's Bayou, and I was like, man, it's so atmospheric, and there's like this like sinister tension that's like this slow boil, and I thought Cassie Lemons would be great. I haven't seen Nomadland yet, but Chloe Zhao, it seems like she can really kind of capture almost like real emotion, and like a lot of the shots I've seen present like an atmosphere. Like I'd be interested to see what she could do with it.
I haven't seen The Rider or Songs My Brother Taught Me, but from what I gather is that they are also very much like, they take place in like rural America, and I think one of them is shot in like the Badlands, and they're kind of just out, and they're very atmospheric. So I think that it would be interesting to see her doing something in a city setting. I think that a lot of her work actually relies on a lot of non-actors, so it would be, I think, a bit of a departure for her, but I think that she has certainly proven herself as a director that can pulling a great performance out of Frances McDormand isn't exactly probably the hardest thing in the world, but I mean, you certainly get the sense that the direction has a lot to do with the emotion that's derived from, watching Nomadland.
Yeah. So that was, so they came to mind. I was thinking about like Greta Gerwig, and I know like, Little Women was a period piece, but
this is different.
It's different. Yeah, it's different. And then on the male side of things, I was thinking of some male directors I think would do a really nice job with it, and I thought of Todd Haynes as I think about Far From Heaven, and I think about him applying kind of some of the mentality that went into making Far From Heaven to making something like this, and I get excited about that. Same thing with like Ang Lee, who I think about The Ice Storm and how how it felt to watch The Ice Storm. I saw that with Mom.
Really?
Yeah. So those were a couple of directors I thought of. Steve McQueen is another one. In fact, I was thinking in my Gregory casting choices, I've got Michael Fassbender on my list there.
Oh, tell me your casting choices.
So my casting choices, and of course I have Jordan Peele because like slow burn thriller. Yeah. So some of my casting choices. So for Gregory, I've got Michael Fassbender, the great Oscar freaking Isaac.
Oh yeah.
Of course. Idris Elba is on my list. Daniel Kaluuya, I was like, that would be an interesting turn for him. And late addition to the list, Omar Sy from most recently of Lupin, also of The Untouchables, the French film. So I think he's got like this very suave presence. And then for Paula, I've got quite a list. I would say my top three here are Carey Mulligan, Alicia Vikander, and Elizabeth Olsen. But I also have on that list Keira Knightley, Michelle Williams, Janelle Monáe. I would be interested, and I put Sophie Turner on there, though.
You're not so hot on that one.
Yeah.
See, I mean, I love the idea of Janelle Monáe in a movie like this, but if you're setting it in the same time period London, then I think you would have to change the setting in order to make it really appropriately work for a non-white cast.
Yes, absolutely. And that was my okay, well, if you were to remake this in a different era, if you were going to do that, but my ideal choice is to keep it in that Victorian London, primarily, Gaslight.
yeah, totally. Absolutely.
But Carey Mulligan is, I mean, she's just got such an amazing track record, and it's so cool to see her getting recognition for Promising Young Woman.
Right. Promising. Have you seen Promise? Oh, it's
not
so
yet.
Good.
No, that's not one I want to watch on my phone. That's one I want to buckle in for.
No. It's great. I mean, not like we're actually casting a remake of this movie, and not like this movie would be remade, certainly not by us, but I would worry that casting Carey Mulligan would be like, she's on the, feminism movement of films if she were to do this after Promising Young Woman.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, I don't know. There's so many people that are, not coming to mind. I think for Gregory, it was much easier to come up with a short list.
Yeah. So I agree with you completely about a straight up remake, setting it in the same era. I mean, I feel like it kind of honors the tradition of a Gaslight remake to make it nearly identical, but just with some slight differences. I hadn't really thought too much about directors, and I do love the idea of a female director, and I think that you had some great suggestions there. The only other director that I was thinking who is not female was Paul Dano, and I don't know if you've seen Wildlife, but it's really good. And that, I think it's the only movie he's directed, but it's written by him and Zoe Kazan, and it's got Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah, it's good. And it's, it's one of those. What's that?
I'm sorry. Who did Nightcrawler? Speaking of Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, that's a great question. Nightcrawler.
Talk about atmosphere and noir, and
Nightcrawler was directed by Dan Gilroy.
Okay, Dan Gilroy. Well, I mean, geez, man, not Dan Gilroy.
Who also directed Jake Gyllenhaal in Velvet Buzzsaw. He was a writer on Kong Skull Island, which is a movie that I enjoy.
It's a fun movie.
So anyway, the casting choices, I only had I had one person per main character, really. For the Paula character, I was thinking Vanessa Kirby, and you might remember her most from Mission Impossible Fallout. She's the blonde woman who's the arms broker. She's also just recently in Pieces of a Woman, which I think was distributed by which is a Netflix movie. It's about a woman who loses a child just after childbirth, and she delivers an incredible performance in Pieces of a Woman. Oh. It's a tough one to watch.
No pun intended.
She's really, really incredible in that movie. You can just see the range that made me think of her, when thinking about the character of Paula. And, prior to having seen Pieces of a Woman, I had only seen her in, Mission Impossible Fallout. She was also I think she was on The Crown, and she was also in, I think, Hobbs and Shaw. So, but it's not until I saw Pieces of a Woman where I was like, wow, that's an incredible performance. That's huge range. And I could easily see her doing the Ingrid Bergman role in Gaslight. And the only person I thought of for Gregory Anton was Sacha Baron Cohen. The way you're looking at me right now. Because the way I was thinking about it is that there needs to be quite a bit of an age difference between the two of them. And it made me feel like I've done nothing with my life when I saw how young Vanessa Kirby is. And Sacha Baron Cohen, who is, he's older, but not like disgustingly older, where it's just like wildly inappropriate. It's
not Michael Douglas.
Feel like, no, but I feel like he can do those really dramatic roles. He can put on that kind of bad guy face, but as we so obviously know, he can be charming. And I feel like, as opposed to like Charles Boyer, he can be more subtle. And I don't know, I feel like he's got the right chops for something like this. Plus, he does have a very like classic look to him when he's not in a character, a Borat type character. He does have a very like old Hollywood look to him. And, when he wants to.
Well,
so
I mean, if you
I
think
feel
about
like it
him,
would really work.
Well, think about him in Hugo and Sweeney Todd. He has done yes, Trial of the Chicago 7, but he's done
but he's playing Abby Hoffman in that. So it's,
right. But I'm saying like he has
the funny guy in the,
I do think often when we think of Sacha Baron Cohen, we think, Borat, Bruno, Ali G, but he does have this career outside of those characters.
Yeah. No, and I think that they would be an awesome pairing. And I don't know if she's still acting. She was in Mary Poppins Returns, but I would love to see Angela Lansbury as the Bessie character, the nosy neighbor. I know that she's, in her 90s, and I don't know how much she's doing, but
maybe that would be enough. Maybe she could, that would be just enough for her to handle.
Oh yeah, to bookend the career.
Yeah. Wow, that would be superb. I would love that. Fabulous.
Yeah. So Vanessa Kirby, Dan, if you're not super familiar with her, check her out. Maybe watch clips from Pieces of a Woman if you're wanting to at least just see. There's some stuff later on in the movie of like, confronting her family and her husband, who's kind of a shitty guy. It's Shia LaBeouf.
Isn't it Shia LaBeouf? I fucking hate Shia LaBeouf.
I know. So the rage that she has and the redemption that she has and the struggles that she has all really feel very authentic, and it really, I feel, would make a lot of sense for the Paula character. Anyway, that's what I got. That's what I got.
Hey. No, excellent. So our next episode, continuing our theme of movies that have either invented, innovated, reinvented phrases, we're going pretty much as far of a swing as you can from Gaslight. We are going from 1944's Gaslight to 2011's Hall Pass.
Yeah, as non-feminist, well, it's not like anti-feminist, but it's certainly not sending the same messages about women.
Yeah, I've never seen it, so
I haven't seen it either, but it did coin the term of, the person that you would be able to sleep with,
the permission
to break the vows
cheat
of
on your spouse.
Exactly. That's Hall Pass for you. So
I am
Jason Sudeikis, Owen Wilson. Yeah.
I like Jason Sudeikis and Owen Wilson. Like, there's sometimes where I love Owen Wilson, and there's other times when I like, nah, it's just not clicking for me. But Christina Applegate is in it, and
who's wonderful.
I always enjoy Christina Applegate.
Yeah,
and Jenna Fisher as well. So
Jenna Fisher.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of what she's been up to recently.
Well, I know that recently she actually has a very successful podcast with Angela Kinsey called Office Ladies.
Right.
That's just talking about The Office. And it seems like, I mean, I don't know if she's doing much acting, but I know that this podcast is extremely, people, as we've talked about before, love The Office.
And Jenna Fisher was in freaking Walk Hard. So
she was fantastic in Walk Hard. And also she was great in Blades of Glory.
Yes. Agreed.
Opposite John Heder.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So
Dan, as you creep along the London squares at night, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey, Paula.